Welcome everyone to today's Aplusify educational webinar on Salesforce reporting, creating complex reports and maximizing data accuracy. I'm Vanu Deschetti. I am Aplusify's Director of Marketing and Sales, and we love pulling these webinars together and bringing everyone together to learn about new and exciting things that are happening in the world of Salesforce. Today, I have Neeraj Garg, who is our Chief Operating Officer. He basically works with associations and nonprofits around the world, specifically here in the US, on their Salesforce instance. What's great about Neeraj is he's seen it all. He also pulls together our great team of developers who get together routinely to talk about what they're seeing, what they're hearing out in the Salesforce world, sharing those lessons learned, best practices, and making sure that not only our team is up to date, but also that information gets relayed to our clients and we're able to help them make the most out of Salesforce. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. This is going to be a recorded webinar. Everyone will be muted. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat section of the webinar or the Q&A. We'll try to get to those questions as you have them. If we're not able to, we'll definitely try to we'll definitely answer those questions at the end. If not, we'll reach out to you individually to make sure you get those answers. Again, if you need any technical help or have any other questions, definitely use those features. So I am going to turn this over to Neeraj here shortly. Now, I would love to get a sense of, Neeraj, I'll launch a poll here shortly. In that poll, we're just going to ask you a little bit about what your experience is with Salesforce reports. We'll get that launched here shortly. But before we begin, Neeraj, I know that this is the one big thing that associations and nonprofits want to be able to use. They want to use reports and dashboards. After all, that's why they got Salesforce. They wanted to put all of this data into their system, and not only did they want one place for that data, but they want to be able to analyze it and know what that data is telling them. Now, I know there are very static reports that very linear that says, just give me what the data says. And then there are more complicated, sophisticated reports. So I'm excited that you're going to walk us through some of that today. So welcome.
Sure. Thanks for the lovely introduction, Venu. And as you rightly said, reports is something which is actually the core of your entire system, because that is something that tells you how your organization is running, what is the health of your organization, and whether the system that you have developed is actually running smoothly or not. So let's have this poll first.
And it's okay. It doesn't matter where you are on this level. We just want to be able to cater this conversation to where most of you are on the spectrum of Salesforce reports. And I don't know about you, but I know that for me, reports wasn't something that was an innate skill or even something that was just very obvious. It took some time to get in there, get your hands dirty, and play around. Okay. We still have people coming in. It seems like everyone's pretty much in the middle of the road. So it looks like you've got experience with it. All right, well, let me actually share the results here with you. So Neeraj, you've got people who know what they're doing a little bit here and probably looking for a challenge.
Yeah, we have got experts here as well, we know. So I think that's good. So I think this
experts out there, you should chime in the chat feature if you have anything, or anyone, if you have any lessons learned or anything you'd like to share. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, go ahead, Neeraj.
Yeah, sure. So I think this report thing is quite exciting, and we get a lot of complaints from the customers that we are not able to generate correct reports out of our system, or we are actually facing a lot of problems. And that actually gave us an incentive to analyze like what are the main things that go wrong, or what are the major challenges that our customers are facing. And after a lot of analysis, we have come out with three major challenges that people actually face and why they face it. So Salesforce reports are just like your visual representation or the data representation of everything that is stored in your Salesforce system or any other silo system that is connected with Salesforce. So data is the foremost stuff that drives your reports. And when we talk about data, it has certain features that we have to take care of. So first and foremost thing that hampers reporting is bad data. And we will actually go into further slides and tell you like what exactly we mean by bad data. So bad data is not something that is not required, or it's not junk data, but that has certain attributes that we should have and we should actually see. And we can actually do a health checkup ourselves to see whether the data that is there in the system is good for us or bad. Then the second important thing that we have analyzed is the data that we are using in our systems are stored in silo systems. So they are not integrated, they are not centralized. Because if you all know, the whole purpose of Salesforce is to actually give you a 360-degree view of what is there in your organization. And in your organizations, you are using different systems. You are using QuickBooks for your finance, accounting. You are using maybe Fonteva events or Salsa Engage for marketing. And then you have a lot of email tools as well. And everything, all of these tools actually combine to show you the complete growth of your organization. So Salesforce is something that sits at the center of your system, which unites all the systems in your organization and gives you a complete view of what is happening in your organization. So if that information is not centralized and the systems are scattered, obviously you will have a huge problem in what all you are reporting. I think the third and the foremost thing that is about data visualization. In most of the cases, the users are not able to get to the point where they can visualize what kind of reports or dashboards they are looking for. There are n number of tools they can use, but what actually they want, that is something which is lacking in their minds. So I think let's go in more deep into these three problems, and I think that ways you will better understand it. So when we talk about bad data, right? So what is bad data? So if your data is not fulfilling these following parameters, it's considered as bad data. So the questions you should ask yourself is, the data that is stored in my system, is this accurate? Is that something like my first name, last name, or email ID, are they accurate or they are not? So if the data is not accurate, there is no point in pulling out reports, because that is going to just display you all the bad information into it. So your data should be accurate. Then your data should be valid in the sense whether the data that you are storing in your system, do you actually require that data, or is it just unnecessarily getting stored into your system as junk data? So it has to be a valid data. Then completeness, obviously every data has to be complete. Otherwise, when you pull off your reports, you will have a lot of incomplete records. And we hear a lot of complaints from the customers that when we pull out the reports, our data is missing. There is no proper information to it. And I will give you a real-time example of this scenario where we actually faced a lot of problems when the data was not complete. So one of our customers asked us to pull a report where he wanted to see like what is the time duration of the members since they have joined that particular organization. So if we talk about report, it's a very straightforward reports because you have to just pull in the report where you just have to check the members since column and pull out that report. So we thought it's a straightforward report, but it actually took us a couple of days to pull out that report. Now, the reason for that was when we pulled out the report and gave it to the customer, he said that it's completely wrong and the data is missing. Now, on further analysis, we found out that the member since column in most of the records was missing. And that was a legacy migration that they had done, which caused that issue, and the member since column was missing. So what we had to do was go and check all the member since columns in all the records, update them, and then pull out the report. So a simple report, which should have actually taken a couple of hours, actually took 2 or 3 days to get generated. So that is the kind of issues you face in reports when your data is not complete or your data is not accurate, or your data is not consistent in the sense that you are storing date in one format in one of your systems or database, and you are storing that in a different format in another system. So when you are actually trying to pull in a report and matching the two systems, the records will not match because the date format is different. So even the records match, the report will be wrong. So it's not the problem of the tool that we are using to pull in the report. It's more about the problem about the data that is stored in the system is not correct. And then obviously your data has to be unique. And we talk about duplicate records in the system. That is because we are not maintaining a unique ID for our records, or that unique ID is not mapped to different systems that the data is being stored in. So just to do a health check, you should ensure that your data has to be accurate, it has to be valid, it has to be complete. And if there are some exceptions where you say that I don't want to have maybe a personal work email stored for the systems, you should actually know about it. So all the exceptions for these have to be known to the team who is actually running and storing that data. Otherwise, bad data is going to cause you n number of issues, and the technical team or any consultant you might have hired to generate the reports, or your Salesforce administrator, is going to struggle a lot. So I think it's the foremost duty of anyone who is helping you out in your data management stuff, or it's your internal stuff. They have to keep a check on the data that is getting stored in the system, because whenever you start using a system and users start entering the data, it's just going to increase very rapidly. And with passage of time, it would just become a mammoth data, not falling in the category of these 4 or 5 parameters. Your bad data is going to increase, and there would be no way to just keep a track on it. So I think this is a kind of health check your data team or your Salesforce administrator should regularly do to keep a check on your data, that your data is accurate, valid, complete, and if there are any exceptions, he should know that.
You know, Neeraj, I always find it interesting when I go to pull a report for our executives or C-suite that I pull a report and I'm like, something here doesn't look right. And I know it always goes back to cleaning up that data, making sure it's the information is there in order to pull the right reports. Otherwise, it's kind of a, if you don't have right info, right reports to tell you what may not be accurate within your database, but it all kind of goes together and we'll get you there. But I definitely am a big fan of doing those kind of health checks and periodically doing them, especially when you have big reports going out to boards or executives or other key stakeholders. Can't send out bad data, not like Gilbert.
No, that is very true. And I think when we talk about bad data, obviously, if we know that bad data is a problem, it's always, we should go to the next step and analyze, like, why is that bad data coming into our system? So otherwise, there is no point in just saying like we have bad data. You should know the reason, and you should have some preventive measures to prevent that from happening. So what happens is, I will give you a scenario where you have just implemented your new CRM system or your new AMS system, whatever it is, and you have given user training to people. Obviously, most of the times we have seen that when a new system has been implemented, sometimes the user training is more related to how to use the system. It's not related to how to use it effectively. So people or the users will know that I have to go to this dashboard, I have to pull out this report, or I have to go to this configuration settings and do it, or I have to enter the data here. But what about the validity of the data that they are entering? So imagine a set of 10 users in your organization, and they are entering data in their registration form, or maybe adding data in the contacts. So everyone will have a different notion because everyone has a different mindset. And unless you have proper documentation in place where they can refer to and say that these are the things I should take care of when I am entering the data, everyone will enter the data in a different fashion. So someone will enter country as USA, someone will enter as US, someone will have a different spelling for a state. So the data that is getting stored in the system is different. So either the date format is not correct, or someone enters the first name but forgets the middle name to be entered because he does not know that the middle name has to be entered. So a proper user training has to be provided when users start using the system, because they are the source of entering the data in your system. And with time, we have seen that if the users are not trained properly, the data is going to be very inconsistent. It could be incomplete data, not accurate.
So we got a little bit of a delay in Neeraj's internet connection here. Neeraj, we lost you there for a second. Can you maybe repeat the last point about the user training, just how important it is to make sure everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, sure. Is it better now?
Oh, well, maybe I can talk about it. I know whether it's going through with onboarding new staff members or training or doing ad hoc training through, or even like a tip sheet, but somehow documenting it so that people on your staff or whoever's engaging into your Salesforce can actually know what type of information is needed in Salesforce, whether it's a required field or not, or even what type of data goes into that field. Sorry about that, Neeraj.
Yeah, no, I think that is perfectly explained, Vinu. So obviously, documentation is something that we should stress on, and especially user training manuals, where we exactly know how to fill in a form and what data is mandatory, what format we should use. And it's always good to have drop downs in your form so that everyone enters same data in the system. But not so, talking about all this, obviously you will have issues. You cannot have 100% preventive measure to have everyone enter the same data. And that is one of the sources that is the cause of the bad data. So the users, so you have a user manual, still maybe you can avoid 50-60% of the issues from providing proper training. Then you can have, when you have implemented a CRM, obviously you will have to integrate that with other systems. You will have to integrate that with your ERP system like NetSuite, or maybe financing system, or maybe with any of your marketing tools like Pardot or Salsa Engage or Fonteva. And when you are doing that, right? So I think we have talked that in the last webinars as well, that whenever you are integrating different systems, you are migrating data between those two systems. And since the data that you have entered is already wrong, because users have inputted a lot of junk data or inconsistent data into it, you are going to face data migration issues, because the data that is there in Salesforce is going to, that same data, that improper data or bad data is going to get transferred into your second system as well. And then it's a chain reaction that happens where every system has different set of data and everyone is talking different language. So you will have data migration issues. You will have issues which are pertaining to improper user training. So it's always good that there is a data management team in hand that constantly audits this kind of stuff, because you cannot have 100% control on what user is entering. Plus, you will not have 100% control on data migration issues, because there would be. So it's good to have an audit or a data management team. And what it does is it actually helps you in auditing all your bad data and run scripts, or maybe correct manually the kind of data that is expected. So I think one of the things that an organization has to take care is have a dedicated data management team, whether it's an internal team or whether they hire an external consultant or anyone else. And they should regularly audit and do a health check of the data. And I think that is the reason why we have all this bad data in this bad. And there can be other reasons as well, but based on analysis, 90% of the bad data is because of these three reasons. And moving on, I think we have decentralized information. So obviously, as I told you in the first slide, you may be using QuickBooks, you may be using Salsa, you may be using Fonteva, and you may be having Salesforce or maybe Salsa CRM or whatever CRM that is connecting to all these silo systems. So, and since we have all this data migration issues and user input errors, all these systems will also have issues. And since the systems are not integrated with each other, everyone is pulling out a different report. And why is centralized data important? So suppose I want to analyze sales which has been closed, and I want to analyze how our marketing team generated the lead through an events and how they actually nurtured it and finally led it to closure. But in my sales force, I just have my sales data into it, and it's not integrated with my marketing data in either Pardot or Salsa Engage. So I cannot have a full picture of how my lead was closed. And if I don't have that picture, or the senior management does not have that picture, he cannot visualize like what actions should be taken maybe in the future or in the next steps, so that the sales can be improved, or what events should be organized, at which locations should they be organized, so that I can have maximum output of my marketing, which can ultimately lead to sales. Because sales is not just about salespeople, it is about the whole organization working together to make it successful. And if we cannot have a holistic view of what is happening in the other departments, like your sales invoices should go to your accounting system and your invoices should get generated from there. But if you don't have your accounting system integrated with Salesforce, your accounting report would be very, very different what you pull in from Salesforce and what you pull it from QuickBooks. So it's always good to have a centralized system and so that we can have one view. And that is what all Salesforce is about. And that is what will help you in one report, because otherwise you will have n number of people generating n number of reports from different systems. And that is a very common scenario in, I think, each and every organizations that we have worked with. Okay, so moving on, data visualization. I think this is the most crucial point in generating a report. Because what happens is, and it is rightly said that a problem which is correctly visualized is just makes it half. Most of the times we have these powerful tools. We have Salesforce, which is actually a very powerful tool to pull in reports. But most of the times, business users are not aware of what reports do they actually want. So they just leave it on the technical team to make beautiful dashboards, to generate reports and have components in it. But unless you know what should be present in that dashboard, there is no point in pulling out having a beautiful dashboard in place, because dashboards are basically for a senior management to have, maybe to decide what the future company strategy would be, or maybe for a sales manager or a sales VP to determine that these are the weak areas where I should focus more, and these are the territories where I should focus more. So I think I would just share my screen and give you a visual of about the dashboard. So just let me share my screen.
While you're doing that, Nitish, I think also from an association and nonprofit standpoint, there are definitely ways to take a look at those reports. One of them could be, especially from a membership standpoint, of a very linear approach of, how many renewals are coming up. What is your, so a linear view would be how many people need to renew their membership this year. And then maybe a more complicated view would be is to find out how many people have not renewed in the past and what that trending report looks like. That tends to be a little bit more of a complicated a report and dashboard that needs to be created, whether it's coming from one source that's dumping the data into Salesforce, or that's coming from multiple sources. But that's definitely where your more complicated reports can come into play. And Narish, I'm glad you can show us these dashboards. These are from a sample client, right? Of types of cleanup and different types of association data we can take a look at.
Sure, and I think these are the kind of dashboards I was talking about, because all these dashboards are available in all these CRM tools. It's just how you actually want to make them. And I will serve you through this. So this was one of the dashboards that we made for one of our clients. And it's a customized dashboard that we have made. And we have called it as a data cleaning dashboard. Now, the history behind it is that I was talking about the bad data. And when we were given this project, we did a health check for the organization. And first of the things that we do is do a health check on the data. And based on that, we decide whether the data has to be clean and what are the fields that they have to be streamlined. Because data cleansing is not just an activity of the technical team. Business users have to be involved in the same way, because there might be exceptions which the technical team might not be aware of. Because in memberships, there may be users who do not want to share their work email, right? But the technical team does not know about it. So I think it's a mutual effort between the business team and the technical team to actually create dashboards and decide on what data is required in that dashboard. So in this data cleaning dashboard, what we have done is we have created different reports. So you can see we have got this report which says all contacts with missing all addresses. So what it does is it actually shows you all the contacts which has either the work address missing or the personal address missing, and shown it as a matrix in the dashboard. Now, the whole purpose of showing it as a matrix in the dashboard to the users is so that they can determine whether there are some exceptions in these kind of contacts, or are these contacts to be completed. Or so it just gives them a view of what has to be corrected and what has not to be corrected, because there would be exceptions in many cases. So this is about missing all address. Then we have similar report which says, and you can always drill down this report, right? So if you want to see and drill down, it will actually give you a link to the actual report, and you don't have to go to any other report to, so it will just take a bit of time because, yeah. So now you can have this tabular kind of report, which tells you like in the suspended state, these are the people who are actually missing their address. Now it's up to the business users to tell them, yeah, these are okay. I want to have an exception on them. Or these are the records I want that the addresses should be complete. Because unless we get that data, we cannot just run our script on it.
And these data points that you're showing us, Neeraj, I think for every organization, it can serve a different purpose or have a different type of reports. For example, one organization may be doing a renewal campaign, renew your membership. And it is a good old-fashioned direct mail campaign where they need to issue out a letter, an envelope, a postcard, and they can't do that if there's a missing address, if they don't have either a work address or home address. So this is a great way of setting those realistic expectations within the membership marketing departments of saying, okay, yes, we may have 60,000 members, but then we only have 40,000 good addresses. So we're going to do a mailing of 40,000. So whether sometimes that may be okay, and sometimes that may encourage to do a little bit more of data cleansing or data research. But that's just one of many examples. Phone numbers could be another one, having correct membership joining dates, renewal dates. Email addresses, I think in this day and age is probably the most important to know whether you've got good email addresses or not. I know I'm going through one bit of activity now of working in an industry where a lot of people unfortunately have been furloughed from their jobs, and so their work emails no longer work. So we're trying to bridge, trying to figure out how do we get a hold of their personal email addresses and attach it to the records and kind of bridge those two. So that could be a very timely kind of exercise to go through right now.
Sure. And I think when we are running, when your marketing team is running campaigns, so they would actually know on which email addresses to send that mail to, because if people have opted not to disturb them on your work emails, you can actually send them to your personal email address. So, and if you don't have an email address, obviously we don't need to worry about or maybe find out the email address for that contact. There is no point in sending the emails to everyone, whether they have an email address or not. So
Neeraj, you have a question about this, this dashboard that you have. I noticed that it involves the Fonteva integration. So is this data from this dashboard, is it just from data from Salesforce, or is it pulling information from Fonteva as well?
yeah, it's an information from Fonteva as well as Salesforce, because they are integrated for this client. And the data that we are seeing here is an information from both. When we actually integrated these two systems, it was very necessary that we run a data health check so that we don't make the data in both the systems bad or screw up the data for both the systems. So I think the first activity that we do for every client that we engage with is do a health check for that client. And one of the health check points is running a health check on the data itself and categorizing that in terms of either bad data or good data, depending on the, and I think this dashboard gives you a good insight to you as well as to the business users, because if you can see this kind of dashboard, technical team and the business team has a similar view, right? They cannot differ in their views because this is something that is visible to both of them, and that is coming from the actual databases that we have built the reports upon. So, and these dashboards were not actually done just with the technical team. It was more of a discovery session with the business team that we have done and come out with the metrics that this is the kind of stuff that we are going to present in the dashboard. And it has taken a lot of iterations, but I think once that has been done and signed off, the report building has not been so Herculean a task, which I think most of the users think that building a report is a Herculean task. What I think is a big task is get that kind of wavelength between the business users and the technical team. If that matches and you're able to gather what user wants or what your stakeholders want, then it's quite easy to pull in these reports. Obviously, there are technical skills involved, but obviously it has to be a collaborative effort between the two. And I will show you one more dashboard here. This is more about the exceptional reporting for data cleansing. Maybe this dashboard will give you an idea to many users on what kind of dashboard they can actually. So this is more about membership renewal, like how many members you have, what is your monthly renewal count that is displayed. So these metrics, that is something that business users have to decide. So senior management has to decide that I want to see my monthly renewal count, and that should get displayed whenever I log in. The data should get synced, and I should get a real update of what is happening. Then we have these kind of reports where you have monthly renewal by type. So this is monthly renewal by type. Then you have monthly renewal by state, like which state has got how many renewals. And I think this is a good report because this tells you like where to focus on that I was talking about, right? So since we have integrated both Fonteva and Salesforce here, we are actually getting data from the events from the location so that we can collate and see like what are our focus areas. And these are the kind of reports that management wants to look at. Then you want to know how the payments are coming, either they are coming through checks or they're coming through credit cards. What are the users more comfortable at? And here we can see like most of the payments are coming through credit cards. So that is something to watch for and maybe make proper arrangements that we can actually accept payments through credit card, if not check. And
that report there that you're talking about, the financial transactions, the check and credit card, that's pulling data not only from the membership, it's pulling from different sources, right? I mean, it's all in Salesforce, but that would be an example of a complicated cross-object kind of report.
Yes, obviously it's actually related to their financial systems. So that is what I'm showing. So we have got this integrated system now. And when I was talking about decentralized system, so that is what I meant. If you can centralize the system and integrate that into one system, then this whole reporting thing is accurate because the data that you're pulling from is pulling from different sources and the data that is matching is actually coming up. Because if you're pulling a different reports in accounting software and pulling a different report in Salesforce, then it's a tedious task for the users. So they have to pull in the report from Salesforce, they have to pull out the report from accounting and then match it. So there is no point in doing that if you can actually do this via integrating the systems. So I think these are the kind of benefits that you get when you have integrated systems and when you have dashboards visualized properly. And I love this dashboard because one of my favorites dashboard because very well thought of from the users and very well built by the technical team. Though it took us a bit of time to get it done, but I think the kind of value that it has added to the to our client team has been extremely useful. So, and the whole purpose of using a system is to get these kind of dashboards because ultimately what we are doing with the system is storing data in it so that we can visualize it. And most of the times I find that people actually store data in the systems, but they make a dashboard which is not useless for them, and then neither the sales team is using it, neither senior management is using it, and then you don't get that return of investment from the product that you have invested in. And if you can get these kind of reports from your system, it's like worthy of having the data in the system and implementing something. It makes you that kind of happy feeling, right? Where you see like the product you have invested in has actually delivered results to you. And this is, you can see it's related to financial. This is like credit card analysis, which is actually coming from your financial system. Then membership records, which are actually coming from Fonteva. And then you can also see like which members are due to expire in next 30 days, which are the membership which is due to expire in next 60 days. And what it can do is you can actually go and analyze and maybe start talking to those customers to renew their membership. So if you know, like these are the 100,000 customers that I need to talk to because their membership is getting expired. So you can run that kind of campaign or maybe send reminders to them. But if you don't have this kind of data in your, obviously data would be there, but if you don't kind of have that kind of report or dashboard in your system, it makes the whole task looks like a very Herculean task. But if you see these dashboards and you can pull out these reports, it actually helps you in your campaigns, in your marketing. And obviously, if you are doing all these two things better, obviously it would help you in your sales.
And it's also, you're not recreating the wheel each time. Once you find that magic formula that works for your reports, it's other than cleaning up the data, they're set, right? You can have those reports, they're just continuously updated and they can be emailed out to keep, either you can export those reports or have them emailed out to the key stakeholders that need to have.
Obviously. So yeah, you even you don't need to email them because they can watch it on their mobile. They can actually go to this dashboard. It's quite easy to see. And when you have this kind of visual representation, no one needs to actually see these figures. They can drill down on whatever they want to see. So suppose someone wants to see the membership, which is going to expire in the next 3 months or so, he does not need to surf through the entire dashboard. He just needs to come to this report and just view this report here, click on a button, and the report gets generated. So no email, nothing like that. It's just online, which you can see if you have a net connection and you have got access to this dashboard. Yeah, see. So, and every time I think it's a human psychology to have that kind of visual representation for your data, because people don't like to read reports in Excel. They want to visualize the report because that is something they like, and that makes more sense to them for every user, whether it's technical team or whether it's the business users. Everyone wants to have these kind of statistics in place so that they can play with it, they can monitor it, and that it's soothing for your mind, right? To get these kind of dashboards makes you feel comfortable. So I think that is the relevance, and I wanted to show it to you because these are the kind of dashboards we actually aim to provide it to our users. And but what is involved in it is that first is you should have a lot of sessions with your business users. You should have workshops with them. You should try to maybe just on a pen and paper, you should just plot out what reports they want, where the data is going to come from, and then maybe give them some sample dashboards to play with. And if they are comfortable, then obviously reports are just components which get added to the dashboard. As many reports you want, it gets added. But all those reports should be useful. And these dashboards change with time, right? Maybe at a different point of time, you may have a different dashboard that a user wants. So it's just a component that you have to add, but that component should be useful. And most of the time, these components that we have seen with our clients are not useful because they are not using it properly. So I think data visualization is very, very important for every organization to maybe give their time to, and they should not be in a hurry. It should be given proper time. Maybe if you just pull out 5 reports in your dashboard, that is okay. But those 5 reports should add value to what you are seeing. Having 50 reports in your dashboard and then you not seeing into it does not make sense.
So if you have any questions for Neeraj, now is the time to ask. Feel free to put it in the chat box here and we can address those questions. Neeraj, can you walk us through a little bit of just kind of summarize again, you've talked about a lot of great points in today's session, but go over some of your recommendations, just very high level of step-by-step what people might want to do to get their reports and dashboards set up.
Yeah, I think foremost point I would recommend is since you have invested in a product which is going to relieve you out of your manual processes and you want to see a real value in the system. So it's important that you have a team who is going to support you for that, because most of the times organizations implement a system and then they forget about how to actually support it when actual users start using it. And when actual users start using it, they might have problems, obviously, which needs to be resolved, which the team that has implemented can take care of, or an external consultant can also take care of. But the core thing is you should have a proper data management team in place, right? If and that should be thought of once you are implementing that product. So you should have a dedicated team who runs periodic checks on your data, who bifurcates these kind of issues where what is bad data, what is good data, what are the exceptional reports you are looking for, maybe work with you on pulling these kind of dashboards, have discovery sessions with you. And most time people see that it's the job of a Salesforce administrator. I agree and disagree to it both, because I think it's too much of an ask from a Salesforce administrator to monitor your data and do a data management for it. I think you need a specialized team to do it, because Salesforce administrators are more about doing configuration settings or maybe pulling out some reports for you, maybe understanding the system, but they actually need a dedicated team whom they can interact with to get these things done. So if you don't have a data management team in your place, I think it's the best time to do it. Do a kind of health check on your system, try to identify what the gaps are, and then maybe devote time with them to pull in these kind of reports and dashboards so that you can have a better feel of how the system is. So I think data management team and obviously discovery sessions that you can have, proper planning you should have for doing it. And if you have got a varied amount of systems which you're using in our organization and you have not integrated it with Salesforce or your CRM, I think you should start thinking about integrating them. And one of the benefits if you have external or internal data management team with you is it helps you in integration stuff as well, because when you are integrating, it's making the two databases talk to each other. So unless you have a data management team to look after how the merge is going or how the integration is going, then it might cause problems. So data management team should be involved and very much involved in all your integration work that you are doing for other systems. And obviously have someone who can actually ask you questions rather than just doing tasks for you. I think you should have someone who can say and ask you like, what is that you want, and help you out in visualizing what you want by making some sample dashboards or making some sample reports and showing it to you. So I think these are the kind of stuff you should be thinking of if you are actually facing problems in your reports or in your integrations.
Great. Well, thank you, Neeraj, for the webinar today. Very informative. Takeaways that I got out of it is make sure your data is clean so that you can pull good reports and have great dashboards. Now, if you have any questions, anyone that's out there that has questions they weren't able to ask, definitely feel free to email us or reach out to us by phone. And here's our contact information. Also, check out our website for future webinars at aplusify.com/webinars. Again, Neeraj, thank you very much for our webinar today. This session has been recorded and we'll make sure that gets out to all of you here shortly. Have a great week.
Thank you. Bye.